open your books, assuming you have them, to very briefly pages 1436, 37. 1436 is where you get the chronology for Sophocles, which I'm not going to talk about much other than this. Date of birth, sometime around 496 BC, at the town of Colonus or Colonus. He dies in 406, so lived 90 years, which back in ancient Greece, that's a pretty good lifespan. I mean, geez, pretty good lifespan for today. Your text mentions in 468, he had his first triumph over Aeschylus in the drama competition at the festival of Dionysius. Scholars of drama tell us that drama arose. All drama means, the word drama, means to do or perform. It's simply an action. Okay? That all drama originally arose out of religious festivals, religious celebrations. So that's how it began in ancient Greece. And oddly / interestingly or ironically enough, when drama dies, kind of at the end of the Roman period, with the destruction of Rome by the Germanic tribes and such, drama completely dies out. And I think I mentioned this before when we began the introduction of drama. And it arises again sometime around 1100 AD, again in the church. And it begins with the one of the festivals or celebrations for Easter. And it's the Easter service in the medieval church when you get passages of scripture quoted. And somebody, we don't know who, initially did this. They said somebody came up with the idea at that service, hey, let's get this passage that's being quoted. And the quoted is when the Marys run to the empty tomb on Easter Sunday morning, and it's empty, and the stone is rolled away. And they meet a guard, who turns out to be an angel. Okay? And they ask the guard, where have you laid our Lord? He said, he's not here, he's risen, he's gone to Galilee, like he said. Those two lines, where's our Lord? He's not here, blah, 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 blah. Those get acted. Okay? That's the beginnings of English drama. Again, sometime 1000, 1100, 1200 AD. 80. So let's go back to here. So drama has its origins in both instances in religious ceremony or in religious festivals. So Sophocles was born, as I said, 96. So 55 years later, okay, he's already writing drama because we know in 468 he takes first prize, right, in a competition. In 441 he writes Antigone, right? In 430 he writes Oedipus the King. I should put Oedipus the King here. And then he dies, as I said, in what, 406? In 406, and in 401, the last of the Oedipus plays, Oedipus at Colonus, is first performed. Now, that's the order of composition, okay? But the order of the plays that you need to read them in is Oedipus the King, Antigone, and Oedipus at Colonus. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Read them in that. This is the reading or chronological order of the world within the plays. All right? This is the chronological order of composition. All right? Now, when Sophocles wrote, especially this play, he wasn't creating something new. That is, the ancient Greek people, they'd already heard of the myth of Oedipus. They knew the story of Oedipus. It long predates, okay, Sophocles. So when the play opens and Oedipus comes out and says a bunch of stuff that we'll talk about in just a moment, everybody in the audience knows that as soon as Oedipus says, if I don't catch the killer of Elias, let the curse fall on my head. Everybody in the audience knows he's just cursed himself. Okay? It's an example of dramatic irony. He doesn't realize the truth of what he's saying, that he is, the cause and all that kind of stuff. Okay? You've got some terms on 1437. You need to know all of orchestra, chorus, scene, deus ex machina. Orchestra, it's not the people with the musical instruments. It's where the chorus does its bit on the stage. The dancing place, as your book has it. Okay? Because what the chorus does is they move in a strophe or an antistrophe. Strophe just means moving across the stage, and the antistrophe is going back. So when the chorus has parts in the play, what they're doing is they're moving. Usually slowly, because some of these lines are pretty long, or some of the passages are pretty long. Okay? Skating is the stage building at the back of the stage. If you look at page 1438, you've got an image of what a Greek theater would look like. And several of these survive, with the exception of the skating, that is the building at the back of the stage. But the round circular area out in front, okay, where the orchestra does its part, and the flat area, and then the wide seating. Okay, the wide seating, it's all just cut out of stone, and those survive. You can go to places in Greece in the summer and watch all three plays, pretty much done as they would have done them 2,500 years ago. Okay. Page 1439, you've got those five divisions of a Greek tragedy, okay, that I mentioned the other day you needed to know. The prologue, the parados, the episodia, the stasimon, and the exodus. Okay. And the paragraph tells you what each of those is and where they come and such. 1439, tragedy is introduced in Aristotle. And this is what I want to take not a whole long time, but a few minutes talking about. Aristotle in his book, I think I mentioned the other day, might have been my other class, in his little book called On Poetics. Okay. Tells us what kind of qualities make for a great drama. And he based that on Oedipus the King. He compares Oedipus the King with some other dramas and says, this one's always the better one. Okay? And one of the things that's not mentioned in your book that I mentioned the other day was the three unities: time, place, and action. According to Aristotle, unity of time means all the action must occur within 24 hours. So the whole play takes 24 hours or less. Okay? Place, it all occurs in one spot. That is one set location. I don't mean one spot on the stage. I mean, wherever the stage is supposed to be set, there's only one place. Compare that with Midsummer Night's Dream, where you have Athens and the wood. You would not see that in Sophocles. And in action, that means unity of plot. You have one plot. You don't get a bunch of little subplots like Shakespeare loves, right? Shakespeare does away with all those unities. Okay? Multiple settings, multiple plots and the plays do not take place within a 24-hour day. Some of Shakespeare's plays take place over a period of years, in fact. Okay? So look at the terms on 1440 and 41. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but just some of them. For example, hamartia. Okay? In talking about the protagonist, which what that really means is protos agonist. Okay? Protos means first or chief or main. What do you think this means? What word do we get from that that's related to that? Agony. What's it mean if you're in agony? You're in pain. So it's the first, chief, main, sufferer. The protagonist of a tragedy is the person who suffers the greatest amount. The person who endures the most. So if we look at something like Hamlet, who's the main sufferer? Who's the one who endures the most? Is it Claudius? No. Gertrude? No. It's Hamlet. And usually, though I'm going to say this isn't a hard and fast rule, it's not 100% true. Usually, when you have a play named after someone, that eponymous character, and the word eponymous there means name. What that means is the title is eponymous. It's named after the main character. That eponymous character usually is the protagonist. Oedipus the king. Who's going to be the main sufferer? It's not going to be Crayon. Now you might say, I don't know, his wife / mother, she suffers a lot, but she doesn't suffer the way he does, and we'll talk about that. Okay? So the protagonist is the chief sufferer. So your introduction goes on and says, right in the middle of the page, the protagonist's imminence and determination to complete some task or goal make him or her admirable in Greek tragedy. But that does not free the protagonist from what Aristotle described as some error or frailty that brings about his or her misfortune. That error or frailty often gets defined or translated as fatal flaw. That is, there's something in that character's character that makes him or her do what he or she does wrong. Right? That's not necessarily what Aristotle mentioned. Aristotle said that the error or frailty is that person's hamartia. Okay? Hamartia. It's a Greek word. It literally means missing the mark. So, if I have a target back there, and I said, all right, everybody come up here, and I brought in, I don't know, Nerf bow and arrow, and said, all right, we're all going to take a shot. Everybody who didn't hit the target would suffer from hamartia. You missed the mark. You missed the target. In the New Testament, when the New Testament writers mention the word that gets translated in modern English as sin, the word they're using is this, hamartia. Okay? It's kind of interesting. It's the exact same word used in Sophocles for when someone mixes up or messes up, or used by Aristotle, I should say. Sophocles doesn't, I don't believe, actually have that word in there. All right? So, the person's hamartia is their frailty. Okay? Go back to Hamlet for a moment. Does Hamlet have a hamartia? Or, if you want to use it, a fatal flaw? Does he have something about his character that kind of causes some of the dominoes to fall? What does he say about himself in several of his soliloquies. No, he never says he's crazy. He says he overthinks things, that he doesn't act soon enough, that he waits. Okay? A lot of critics have said Hamlet's main flaw is he's a thinker. He doesn't act. He waits too long. Okay? Go on. Down at the bottom of the page, your book mentions hubris, or it's also spelled hybris, Hybris. Okay? Aristotle argued that this is usually the tragic hero's hamartia. That is usually that person's sin or fatal flaw. So what's hubris? Overweening pride. Overweening is not a phrase we use anymore. Arrogant is. Arrogant pride. It's not the kind of pride you take, in doing well on an exam or doing well on a paper. It's the kind of pride that says you're the absolute best at whatever it is you do, when you might not be. Or even if you might be. Okay? So what can be wrong about it? What can be wrong about if you are the best at something and you walk around and you constantly say, I'm the best? Well, what does that do to others? I don't mean, participation trophy, all that kind of nonsense. I mean, it's not what does it do to others? Well, it puts them down, it makes them feel bad. No, it creates challengers, right? And what happens to the person who is the best at some point in time?
They get dethroned.
Exactly. You get knocked down, all right? So hubris does, based upon reading Oedipus, does Oedipus have hubris? Well, when we talk about the opening scene, he's going to say some stuff that ancient Greeks were going, no, don't say that. Please don't say that, okay? Couple other things. Catharsis, okay? Term Aristotle. Term Aristotle uses. Why? Because he believes a tragedy is designed to produce a catharsis in us. Catharsis means cleansing, purgation. All right? So what's it meant to cleanse? Two things. The emotions of pity and fear. Well, how so? Because of what happens to the tragic hero. Now this gets back to who can be the tragic hero. What should a tragic hero be like? Should a tragic hero be somebody at the top of the world?
No.
Metaphorically. No. Why not? How many of you identified with Bill Gates? I mean, you look at Bill Gates and you go, yeah, I'm kind of like him. Yeah, I'm a lot like him. Or, we're friends or something. No. People generally, maybe I'm totally wrong here, but we probably tend not to identify that as look at as being similar to billionaires, right? I sure don't. Not even millionaires. Total other league, so to speak. Okay? But that's just economics. What about, actors, musicians, people who are top of their fields? Now, maybe you do, but I don't. So what Aristotle suggests is that the tragic hero should be someone slightly, a little bit above everybody else or the norm, but he can't be so high that people can't look at that person and empathize with them. That is, you've got to be able to look at the tragic hero and say, use a modern phrase, there but for the grace of God go I. In other words, that could be me. That could be me. Okay? Hamlet. Could Hamlet be you? Not you in your present setting as just you. But if I were born in Hamlet's shoes, if I was the prince and my father had been killed and my mother had been, forcibly married to, what would I do that would be different than Hamlet kind of a thing? So part of what Aristotle's getting there is that, we can identify with this character. We can put ourselves in that character's shoes. If the character is so good that we can't identify with them, then it's going to make the play impossible to work for us. All right? So, how do you purge these emotions? You build up suspense. You build up anger. Okay? Now, a lot of films today don't do this. There is a branch of film that kind of does. Most action movies actually do this. Okay? They build up that suspense. You wonder if whatever the bad thing is going to happen is going to happen. You hope for the good guy to win. And when the good guy does win, you kind of get that metaphorical relief, so to speak. All right? A couple other things. Page 1441. Reversal. Okay? Aristotle described the moment in the plot when this change, that is, the change from what could be a happy ending to a bad ending, to a negative ending, that's the reversal. Usually that also occurs nearly simultaneously with the next word on the page, recognition. When the character realizes, the protagonist usually realizes, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. All right? Dramatic irony and tragic irony we'll leave alone for a moment. Just read them and know what they are. So let's get into the play. 9:33. Yeah, we should be able to do this in 2 minutes. So you've got a list of characters. Oedipus, king of Thebes. Thebes is a town in Greece. Okay? You've got a priest. And his name is pronounced Crayon, brother of Jocasta, or Jocasta. You've got a chorus of Theban citizens and their leader. Tiresias, a blind prophet, or I think the better thing to call him, and this is often what he'll be referred to as in the play, the blind seer. Now, notice the way I'm pronouncing it. Seer. It's literally pronounced seer. Okay? The blind seer. How can you see if you're blind? Well, he doesn't see with these eyes. He sees with his mind. All right? Jocasta, the queen, wife of Oedipus, a messenger, a shepherd, and a few other people. All right? So we get the time and scene. The setting is set up for us. Many years have passed since Oedipus solved the riddle of the Sphinx and ascended the throne of Thebes. Okay? So, long time ago, Oedipus was not king of Thebes. Somebody else was, and that king had died. When that king had died, the Sphinx set itself up at the entrance to the town. What's a Sphinx? Lion with a person's head. Okay. What was the riddle? Anybody know?
What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 at night?
What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 at night? And apparently for years, people had come to try to come into Thebes or try to become king of Thebes, and the Sphinx asks the riddle. They can't answer, and the Sphinx eats them. So that's the key. You got to be able to answer the riddle before you can get into Thebes. And nobody could. Oedipus comes in, shows up, and he answers. What's the answer? A man. A baby crawls on all 4. A man walks upright. And when you get old, you'll walk with the stick. And there's your 3 legs. Okay? So, long time has passed since then. Oedipus solved the riddle of the Sphinx. People welcomed him as a conquering hero, and he was given the queen to be his queen because her husband was dead. They didn't know how he died. So, the play opens with people coming forward and offering essentially sacrifices on an altar out in front of Oedipus's palace. Okay? So Oedipus comes out and says, "Oh, my children, the new blood of ancient Thebes, why are you here?" Okay, notice, the new blood, ancient Thebes. Thebes is an ancient town. He's, by saying new blood, he's essentially just saying the current occupants. All right? Why are you here huddling at my altar? That doesn't mean an altar to me. That is, this is my altar that I use to sacrifice to the gods. Praying before me, now it's kind of getting, praying before me in the context of it, my altar kind of implies that Oedipus is saying, you guys are praying to me. Okay? Your branches wound in wool, etc., etc. Our city reeks with the smoke of burning incense. That is, people are burning at the altars everywhere. Rings with cries for the healer and wailing for the dead. So, if they ring with cries for the healer, there's obviously widespread sickness. Okay? And wailing for the dead, a lot of people have died. I thought it wrong, my children, to hear the truth from others, messengers, so I didn't send a servant out to say, what do they want? So he says, here I am. Here I am myself. You all know me. The world knows my fame. Kind of sounds what? He's a little full of himself. All right? I am Oedipus. Anybody know what the name Oedipus means? Swollen foot or club foot. Okay? We find out within the course of the play how he has a club foot. And it's not actually just one. It's both. Okay? So, he pulls up one of the priests, says, speak up. Come on, speak. Why kneel? Come on, speak. I am ready to help. I'll do anything. I would be blind to misery not to pity my people kneeling at my feet. So, if it's in my power, I'll help you. And so the priest says what the problem is. Skip several lines, go down to the very bottom of page 1443. Our city, look around you, see with your own eyes. Our ship pitches wildly. What ship? He's using the metaphor of the city as a ship on the ocean. The ship of state, in other words. And the ocean is doing what? It's battering it. It's in a tempest. Okay? Thebes is dying. And he goes on and he talks about all the problems in Thebes. So he says, now we pray to you. He's not praying to Zeus. He's not praying to Apollo. He's not praying to any of the other gods. He says, we pray to you. You cannot equal the gods, of course. Your children know that, bending at your altar. But we do rate you first of men, both in the common crises of our lives and face-to-face encounters with the gods. Notice what the priest says there, because he's kind of hedging his bets and covering his backside. We pray to you, but you're not equal to the gods. Okay? But you are the first among men. How so? In common crises of our lives, when things get really bad, you're always there, you're always number one, and you've spoken to the gods. Kind of what that second part means about face-to-face encounters. You freed us from the Sphinx. That's why we're praying to you. Okay? So he talked about what that meant. So he says, now again, we bend to you your power. You freed us from the Sphinx. You've got to free us from what? What is probably troubling Thebes? Plague. What kind of plague? Crops are dying. Livestock's dying. People are dying. Death. All right? We're on our knees. Help us. Perhaps you've heard the voice of a god, line 52 or so, or something from other men. What do you know? Come on, what do you know? And then the leader says, interestingly, because it's going to be really important for the next play. The man of experience, you see it every day. His plans will work in a crisis, his first of all. The man of experience is Oedipus, a brand new king. No, he's been king for years. So you've had experience. You've had, experience dealing with troubles, dealing with crises. So help us. Oedipus, bottom of the page. My children, I pity you. I feel for you. I understand your pain. But he's also saying, and I'm going to help you. How could I fail to see what longings brings you here? Yes, I know. You were sick to death. Yes, all of you. But no one is as sick as I am. What? He doesn't mean he's literally sick. He means metaphorically. When I see you sick, I am sick for all of you. Your pain strikes each of you alone, individually. He says, but I take all that pain kind of communally on myself. My spirit grieves for the city, both for myself and for all of you. Well, you have to understand, in ancient Greece, the king or the leader of the city kind of identified with the city and was identified as the city. He said, no, I've not been asleep. You haven't wakened me. After a painful search, I found one cure, and so I acted. What was the cure? I sent Crayon, line 81, my wife's own brother, to Delphi. Why to Delphi? Because at Delphi, or Delphi, you can receive an oracle. What's an oracle? A word from the god. Okay? And if you go to the actual place today, at Delphi, where they went to receive the oracle of God, we know it is a place where there is an earthquake fault. And gas is, it's not methane, it's another kind of gas. And gas is periodically released from the ground that causes people who are there at the time to faint. So it's now thought by anthropologists, this is the gas escaping and people have visions, weird stuff like that. So, he says, I sent Crayon to Delphi. And guess what? He's supposed to be back today. So when did he do that? Before the play opened. Why? Because you had the unity of time. It all has to occur in one day. So, he says, today's the day. What's taking him so long? Why isn't he back already? Strange he's late. He's gone too long. So, the priest says, oh, look, here he comes. Okay? So Crayon starts to come in. And Oedipus calls out to him, line 97 or so. Crayon, prince, my kinsman, what do you bring us? What message from the god? The god there, it's Apollo, who's the god of wisdom, god of poetry, who speaks through the oracle. Okay? Now notice, Crayon, take for a moment that the oracle is not a god. Take for the moment that the oracle is a foreign head of state. And he sends Crayon to speak to this foreign head of state and come back. In that case, in that scenario, what does Crayon really become? He's like a foreign ambassador, right? He's like the ambassador to, the head of England. So, what do presidents, for example, usually do when they send the Secretary of State off to negotiate with somebody? When the Secretary of State comes back? Do they have a press conference? CNN, all the news agencies are out there, and they have the Secretary of State announce publicly everything that's been said No. What do?
Have a meeting.
Yeah, let's come into the Oval Office and let's sit down and talk about it. Tell me what he or she said. What does Oedipus do? He says, what message? Crayon, good news. I tell you, even the hardest things to bear, if they should turn out well, all would be well. In other words, I've got good news, and kind of, if we do everything that's said, everything will be fine. Oedipus, of course, but come on, what were the God's words? Tell me now. Where is he? Out in front of all the people. There's no hope and nothing to fear in what you've said so far. Well, if you want my report in front of the presence of these, that is, if you want me to tell you what the God said out in front of here all the people, notice ... What's the ... mean? Pause. Long pause. I'm ready now. Or we might go inside. Let's go inside, Oedipus. This isn't for everybody out there to hear. No, tell everybody. I grieve for these my people far more than I fear my own life. See, now when he says that, the audience, because they know the story of Oedipus, they start to go, oh, he's going to get it. He's stupid. He thinks he's brilliant, but he's not very bright. Crayon, okay. Drive the corruption from the land. Don't harbor it any longer past all cure. Don't nurse it in your soil. Root it out. What's the corruption in the land? Whatever the thing is that is causing the plague. So Oedipus says, how? What do we have to do? Banish the man or pay back blood with blood. Banish what man? Murder sets the plague storm on the city. Whose murder? Who died? Okay. Our leader, my lord, was once a man named Elias before you came to put us straight on course. He goes, yeah, I've heard. Never saw the man myself. Crayon, well, he was killed. And Apollo commands us now, pay the killers back. That is, kill them. Okay? Whoever is responsible. Oedipus, where are they? Come on, let's find them. Here in Thebes. Okay, this is from the god. How do you know? It's in quotation marks. Here in Thebes, he said, Crayon says. Whatever is sought for can be caught, you know. Whatever is neglected slips away. Okay, Oedipus says, okay, where? Where in Thebes? Notice the first place he suggests. In the palace? Why? Is he assuming he's guilty? No. Who's he thinking would dare lay hands on a king? Some servant or slave. In the palace, the fields, or foreign soil? Where did Elias meet his bloody death? See, that's what he's really getting at. Where did Elias die? Did he die in the palace? Did he die out in the fields? Or did he die in some foreign land? Okay. Crayon, he went to consult an oracle. If there's one thing that becomes clear by reading the play, maybe you shouldn't consult oracles. Why not? This oracle in particular, what does it always seem to reveal, especially for Oedipus? Bad news. And what kind of news is it?
Oedipus is ready for killing dad and marry mom.
It's fate. What's the problem with fate?
Can't save it.
There's nothing you can do about it. You can try as hard as you want. And a lot of Greek drama is largely about that. Okay? But you can't. See, in the Greek system, the way the Greeks understand kind of humanity, the world, the universe, etc., you've got fate and you've got the gods. And down here, you've got the earth with us. Okay? The gods see what's going to happen to us because they can see what fate has in mind. Fate doesn't control the gods. The gods are uncontrolled by fate. The gods also don't control fate, but they can see what it has in store. This is why you go to an oracle. Find out, what stocks are going to go up tomorrow or whatever. Or, how am I going to die? That kind of thing. Okay? So, Crayon says he went to consult an oracle. He left, but he never came home. Wait, no messenger? No fellow traveler? That is, no fellow traveler, he's implying. He was a king. He had to have an armed guard. They all got killed? No, they are all killed. Oh, take that back. All but one. He escaped, terrified. He couldn't tell us anything clearly. Nothing of what he saw, just one thing. Well, what was that? What was the one thing? He said thieves attacked them. A whole band. All right? So the one eyewitness, the one person left alive, said they were attacked by a band of thieves and everybody was killed except for him. Okay? Oedipus kind of finds that hard to believe. Crayon, yeah, it's kind of what we suspected. But with Elias dead, no leader appeared to help us in our troubles. Trouble? Trouble? Why does Oedipus, get hung up on the word trouble? You didn't have troubles. Your king was murdered. He's saying that's the most important thing. Royal blood, what stopped you from tracking down the killer? The Sphinx. Because it's like, the moment Elias dies, the Sphinx pops up. Oedipus says, okay, I'll do it then. I'll bring it all to light myself. Get rid of this. Think of themes of the play. Light versus darkness. Okay? Is one. Huge one. I'll bring it all to light myself. Apollo is right, so are you. But now you have me to fight for you. Top of 1447. You'll see. I am the land's avenger by all rights and Apollo's champion too. But not to assist some distant kinsman. No, for my own sake, I'll rid us of this corruption. He says, I'm not doing this to assist some distant kinsman. That is, I'm not doing this like Hamlet did, for revenge. No. He says, I'm doing it for my own sake. What's he mean for his own sake? Well, if somebody killed one king, what's going to stop him from killing another? If they killed Elias, what's going to stop them from killing me? Okay? So, by avenging Elias, I defend myself. So he tells the priest what to do and such. The priest does. The people rise up and they go, Hail mighty Zeus for giving us Oedipus. We're going to skip a bunch. Okay? They go on, page 1448. Talk about death ravaging the city. And Oedipus comes back out. Top of 1449. We're skipping a bunch. And Oedipus says, you pray to the gods? Let me grant your prayers. See, that is definitely hubris. You don't overstep the place of the gods in Greek drama, because when you do, you suffer. The gods are very particular about their role in human affairs. Okay? And one of those roles is, you pray to us. We'll decide whether or not we want to do anything for you. Okay? So Oedipus says, pray to me. Line 248, page 1449. I will speak out now as a stranger to the story, a stranger to the crime. Again, because the audience already knows the story, they hear that and they're like, you're not a stranger. Oh, you're about to really step in it. If I'd been present then, there would have been no mystery, no long hunt without a clue in hand. Well, that's pretty much true. If he had been present after the murder of Elias, that is immediately, like comes in, hands stained with Elias's blood, pretty much people would know. So now counted a native Theban years after the murder. That is, you take me for a native, but he's implying I'm not native born to Thebes, which we don't find out till much later. Counted a native Theban years after the murder. To all of Thebes I make this proclamation. If any of you knows who murdered Elias, I order him to reveal the whole truth to me. Nothing to fear, even if he must denounce himself. That is, if you know who murdered Elias, or if you are the murderer of Elias, don't fear. Okay? Why? You will escape the brunt of the charge. He will suffer no unbearable punishment, nothing worse than exile, totally unharmed. We won't even beat you. We won't even flog you. We'll just say, there's the door, leave. Okay? You won't be executed. Now, what kind of offer is this? Radically generous. Usually, kill a king, you're dead. Okay? And there's no reply. Now, the implication is, when Oedipus throws this out there, the chorus speaks for all the people of Thebes. And so when the chorus doesn't reply, doesn't respond, that kind of means nobody in Thebes has the answer. Okay? So nobody responds. All right, okay, so if anyone knows the murderer is a stranger, an alien, come on, speak up. I'll give you a reward. So if you tell me what neighboring land the murderer came from, I'll give you money and that'll help us track him down. Silence. Oedipus is starting to get a little bit perturbed here. But if you keep silent, if anyone panicking, trying to shield himself or friend or kin rejects my offer, then hear what I will do. Okay, because nobody's uttered anything. I order you, every citizen of the state where I hold throne and power, banish this man, whoever he may be, that is the killer of lies. Never shelter him, never speak a word to him, never make him partner to your prayers. That is, never mention him in your prayers, etc. Drive him out, each of you, from every home. This person, the murderer of Elias, is the plague, the heart of our corruption. Okay? So, if you know who and you don't do this, this person is the plague, etc. Now my curse on the murderer himself. Whoever he is, now notice what he says next. Because what did Crayon say? Crayon said earlier, you know, there was one person who lived, and he said they were set upon by a band of thieves. But Oedipus says, whoever he is, a lone man unknown in his crime, or one among many. Why does he throw out a lone man? I think it's because Oedipus doesn't necessarily believe, not necessarily Crayon, but what Crayon and the others were told by the one person who lived. Maybe he was lying. So if he's one man alone, unknown in his crime, or one among many, let that man drag out his life in agony, step by painful step. I curse myself as well. And that's it. That's where the audience says, yep, you sure do. Because you're the guilty one. If by any chance he proves to be an intimate of our house, that is, someone close to me and lives in my home, you know, as close as thou art to thyself, Horatio says to Hamlet, here at my hearth with my full knowledge, may the curse I just called down on him strike me. Okay? So, he says, these are your orders, I command you, do all this. And then he goes down and he talks about the king, what little bit he knows about him. And page 1451, the leader says, what about Tiresias? I still believe Lord Tiresias, line 323, sees with the eyes of Lord Apollo. Anyone searching for the truth, you might learn it from him, from the prophet. Now, what is one meaning, at least, about the word prophet? What's a prophet do?
Foresees the future.
Foresees the future. That's one thing. Foretells the future. Okay? A prophet is kind of a play on words. A forth-teller and a teller forth. That is, the prophet tells what's going to happen in the future, and the prophet tells truly what is happening now. Okay? Look at what Oedipus says. Already sent for him. Okay? So the leader mentions rumors about Elias' death. Oedipus, what rumors? 331, Elias was killed, they say, by certain travelers. He said, yeah, I know all that. Okay? So Oedipus says to Tiresias, when Tiresias is brought in by a young boy, Tiresias shows up in a lot of literature, a lot of Greek literature. He's kind of your standard, always right, blind guy. He talks about the future. He's never wrong. And he always, in one sense or another, he bears the brunt of being right. People don't like somebody else who's always right, especially people in power. Okay? So, listen to how Oedipus addresses him. O Tiresias, master of all the mysteries of our life, all you teach and all you dare not tell, signs in the heavens, signs that walk the earth, blind as you are, you can feel all the more with sickness haunts, blah, 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 blah. What does all that mean? O great and wise Tiresias, who sees and knows all things. Why is that important? Because literally, within a page and a half, he's going to accuse Tiresias of not telling the truth. In fact, he's going to say, Tiresias, you do what you do and you say what you say merely for money. And then he's going to say, and I think you're in cahoots with Crayon. I think you and Crayon killed Elias. On the basis of what evidence? None. On the basis of what accusations? None, other than his own. Okay, so we will pick up on 1452. Yeah, we'll probably go ahead and finish on Wednesday. Expect a quiz over all of it. All of Oedipus the King. And the background to Sophocles stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.